All right, 3, 2, 1. So we're actually going to take some questions now, and these might be some questions that you've had and you want to know more about. So let's take the first one. Okay, so when will my immigration process commence? So there's really two times that it will start, okay? If you join our program not having done the NCLEX, once you pass NCLEX, and our NCLEX program is about 6 months in length, so once you pass the NCLEX, we aim to file you within 30 to 60 days of you passing the NCLEX, okay? So your results come out, there's lots of information we need from you, so we get all of that information going, and then within about 60 days, we'll get them filed, right? Now, if you join the Avant program and you've already done the work of NCLEX, then within, again, about 60 days, 30 to 60 days of signing your contract, gathering all of the documentation that we need, we will then get your visa filed, okay? So that's the time frame associated with that. Before we answer that, what is premium processing? Well, it's something really useful, I think, and it's kind of a benefit. And premium processing means that when we file your I-140 application, we pay extra money. And how much is premium right now?
$2,500. It's gone up a couple of times in the past years.
Yeah.
But it used to be $1,225, then it went up to $1,400, and it's currently $2,500 to file premium processing for the I-140 application.
So $2,500 is what that costs us, and Avant pays that in most of our cases. And what it means is that from the day we file you, the Immigration Service must provide us with a decision on your I-140 within 15 business days. Now, usually that decision is an approval. Sometimes it might be a request for more information, but regardless of the outcome, sometimes it's a denial. Fortunately, we haven't had those, touch wood, no denials in what, close to 2 years? Couple of years now. But the Immigration Service must provide an outcome of that I-140 petition within 15 days. And so people, it's definitely a benefit to be filed under premium processing. And all right, so typically, well done, she's so clever. Typically we file the I-1, most of our I-140s with premium. However, sometimes a nurse may come to us and they don't quite have enough experience. And so in that case, there's no real benefit in expediting the case. And so in a few cases, in a few instances, we may not file with premium processing. But I would say, what, in 98% of the files?
For the most part, we do. And what's important is that whether we file with regular processing or premium processing, it does not impact your priority date. So the priority date is based on when the case is filed, not when it's approved. Yeah. So you will still maintain that priority date based on when the case is filed with the USCIS.
Great. All right, let's see if we have another question. Okay, so what immigration status will I have once I arrive in the United States?
So we are filing our nurses and all of our healthcare professionals actually for a green card, which is an immigrant visa. So once you arrive in the US and you enter on that EB3 visa, you will be a permanent resident of the United States. The same applies for your eligible family members. They are included on your petition, and on arrival, they will also be permanent residents of the United States.
Which is amazing, because there are so many people who want to be permanent residents. I'm still a permanent resident. I've not become a citizen. Even though I've been here for 15 years, I've been too busy working to do it, basically. Saloni came in also. Did you come in on a green card?
I did, many years ago. I've been here for 13 years. I actually did my paperwork to get my citizenship. She refuses to do it.
I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to. I say that every year.
She's been saying that for 8 years that I remember.
So the good thing is, once you've had a green card for 5 years and have maintained stay in the US, then you can apply to become a US citizen. And depending on the country that you've come from, you may be able to maintain, say, for example, I have a British passport. I can have a British and an American passport at the same time. So it depends on the rules of the country that you come from. Now, what's the benefit of being a citizen versus a green card holder? Well, one of the only things you cannot do as a green card holder that you can do as a citizen is to vote in the presidential election. So none of this has anything to do with me, because I was a green card holder, couldn't vote, have no say. But when you become a citizen, you can vote, but really other than that, there's not a huge
There are
difference.
a couple of things. Voting is one. You cannot hold certain office in the government. You cannot
be
the military.
president.
You cannot be the president, even once you're a citizen if you weren't born here. But you cannot work for the military in certain positions. So there are a few things that you cannot do, but other than those 2 or 3 things, you are pretty much eligible for all the rights that anyone else has as a U.S. citizen.
So it's amazing. It really is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. And the face value or the face date on your green card when you get it will be valid for 10 years. And then once that expiration comes up, then you would just simply renew your green card, or like sensible people, become a citizen after 5 years. And then you change your status from being a green card holder to being a citizen and can apply for your passport. So what is the Visa Bulletin? Well, I think we've pretty much covered that.
So it's issued, like Lesley said, once a month. Typically, we used to see it come out in the beginning of the month, the first week. More recently, we've seen it being pushed back further. So we see it around the 3rd week of each month, and that gives us projections on what the next month is going to look like for this visa interviews that are upcoming.
So really an important document for us. We relish every time it comes out because we're always dying to see what's going to happen. And if you also watch our Facebook page, you will see regular updates and postings every time the Visa Bulletin comes out. But again, you can go and sign up for it for yourself. So here's another question. So what is the priority date? Well, again, I think we've covered that, but just in case you tuned in late, a priority date is the date that your I-140 petition documents are received by the USCIS. So we prepare a whole pile of paper. The petitions are huge. Lots of documents about you and lots of documents about Avant. And we overnight those and we track them. And so typically, depending on the day they're sent, if they're sent on a Thursday, your case would be received on a Friday. And that Friday, the date of that Friday would become your priority date, okay? So as Saloni said earlier, the most important thing is to get filed, okay? So apply now and get in the queue, okay? Especially if you have NCLEX. We also have fantastic bonuses right now if you have already done the work of NCLEX. So do not delay, get signed up so we can get your visa filed. Saloni doesn't have anything to do, so she needs to be getting busy and filing. She has so much work to do. We have 200 nurses going to exit in the next 4 weeks.
Yes.
Did you see that deep breath she just said?
We have a lot of nurses, but I would like to add that these are nurses that have been waiting for a very long time. So last year we saw a shutdown across the world. We did not have hardly any interviews scheduled. So these nurses have been waiting for a very long time, and we're very excited to have them finally go to those interviews and get their visas and immigrate to the US.
We are. We know they're super excited because we hear a lot from you guys that are on the program, and we are dying to have you here. So we can't wait till you get here. So what is the USCIS? Well, it stands for the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, and it's part of the Department of Homeland Security, and it is responsible for pretty much all the green card processing that happens, naturalization, so becoming a citizen, work permits, travel permits, everything to do with legal and illegal immigration. So USCIS is a very powerful body. We kind of have a love-hate relationship with them, but we love them right now because they're approving everybody. And when things slow down, it gets a little frustrating. Oh gosh, what is the average length of time for the immigration process?
Well, it depends on multiple things. The Visa Bulletin is one of those things. If you're from India, unfortunately, the priority dates are retrogressed, so the process takes significantly longer. If you are from the Philippines at the moment or from rest of the world category, which is current, potentially you could be in the US in about 8 to 12 months. That's a very broad if, and it depends on multiple pieces. If we have COVID, obviously the process goes on a lot longer. If you don't pass the IELTS, the process is longer. If you have gaps in your employment, family changes, which call for a delay in your process, then it's longer. But I think 8 to 12 months is typically what we see if all the pieces are moving like they should be moving.
Well-oiled machine we are here at Avant. So great. All right, let's see if we have another question. Oh, when is the best time to take the IELTS? Well, many people come to us already with IELTS, right? And so they've already taken that. Now, remember though, that IELTS is only valid for 2 years. So some nurses have to take IELTS in order to take NCLEX. But some nurses can wait until NCLEX is done and your immigration process is underway. IELTS is really important because without it, unless you are from an IELTS exempt country, you cannot get the all-important visa screen certificate. And without a visa screen certificate, you can't get your green card approved. And so we recommend, all being fair, right, and everything moving forward normally, that once you pass NCLEX and your green card has been filed, that is when you want to take the time to get ready and pass IELTS. Again, as I said, it may vary depending on your country of training, depending on your country of birth, but usually we're going to have you focus on IELTS once your NCLEX is passed. So that's kind of the rule of thumb there, okay? So this is a good question. Who is eligible to be included on the green card case as a dependent? Parents, siblings, nieces, nephews, grandma, grandpa, dogs, cats, are they all included? No.
No.
No, but the good news is that if you are legally married, your spouse can come with you. So domestic partnership, unfortunately, is not recognized here in the US. But same-sex marriage, as long as it's legally recognized, is now also included under a dependent petition under the green card. So legally married spouse and any unmarried children who will be under the age of 21 years when you are ready to enter the US. So obviously, if your child is now 3 and you are from the Philippines, very definitely that child will be, most likely that child will be under the age of 21 before you come into the US. If you're from India and your child is 12, we won't know if that child is still going to be under the age of 21 by the time you're coming in because of the delay. Now, so that's kind of the standard, right? So married spouse and any children who are your biological children, stepchildren, or legally adopted children who will be under the age of 21 on the day you enter the US. If you want to then sponsor mum, dad, grandma, grandpa, brothers, sisters, that would happen once you are here in the US, and that would be an FB, so a family-based visa. And if you want to do that, we have attorneys that we can put you in touch with, and they will be able to help with your family-based processing. Will there be delays in my process if I get married or if I'm expecting a baby? This is, I'm gonna let you answer this.
Well, not necessarily. So this is case specific. And for those of you already in the process, in touch with your immigration specialist, that is where you would direct that question, because we have to review several different factors, including what stage of the process you are in. So if you are getting married or if you plan to get married, do that sooner rather than later. We do have some nurses who are at the end of the process and then want to add their spouses at the embassy, which is also possible. But we do recommend in immigration to minimize delays that if you do plan to marry, then get married as soon as possible. With regard to your baby, if you are expecting, well, first, congratulations. We can definitely add your baby to the case, but we would again have to time your process based on how far along you are in your pregnancy, and make sure that you have everything in place for you and your family to make that move to the US, because it is a huge step in immigrating to the US.
And it's super stressful,
and it's very stressful.
And if you just had a baby and you're flying internationally and you're coming to spend time with us here in Orlando, and then you're going to a new location, that's stressful. It's good stress in many cases, but it's stressful. So as soon as you know that your family is going to grow, please tell us. People often don't tell us, and sometimes it gets messy. And so the best advice we can give you is, when you know you're going to get married, tell us. When you know you're expecting a little bundle of joy, tell us, because we can often avoid extra money, delays in your process, and if you're upfront with us, then we can certainly give you the very best advice. The other thing just to bear in mind is, if you're getting married very soon to coming and you're adding your spouse at the embassy, sometimes that can raise an eyebrow. And so make sure, in this world of technical times, that you keep track of communication about your relationship. Cards, emails, love texts. Make sure you have documentation, because they may ask you to make sure that this marriage is in fact bona fide, and you're not just trying to get married to bring somebody in who may want to come to the US. So we've had nurses who've had to send in wedding pictures, love letters, all kinds of things, right?
And that's typical when the marriage is a short duration. The embassies typically require you to establish that relationship to ensure that it's legitimate. We've also had some embassies come back and question children. So they ask for proof of whether that's your child in addition to the birth certificate, and they have to get records from the hospital, they have to get pictures. So it's not just for the spouse, but in general for families, there is proof required at the embassy interview to establish that it's an authentic relationship.
And in some cases with children, they are doing DNA as well to establish parentage. So it's a serious business. And so the more you tell us, and we know it's personal, we know it's private, but in order to really effectively maximize your case and be efficient, it really is key that you talk to us about these major changes in your life. So we promise we won't tell anybody else. All right, so what does follow to join status mean? Oh gosh, that's a big paragraph. So what follow to join means is, sometimes it's an expensive process, right? Even though Avant pays a lot of the cost, there is cost to you for your family members. There's cost for the fee bill, which is $345 per person. There's cost for immigration medicals. There's a visa issuance fee in order to get your green card, which is $220 per person. And then there's flights. And if you're coming from Africa, those flights are not cheap. So what some nurses decide to do is they will hold their family right after the I-140 approval. And that is called follow to join. So we would hold the family, we would move your case through to the exit interview, and you would come, get yourself established, maybe 6 months, 3 months, it doesn't have to be very long. You come in, you get settled, and then you say, now I'm ready for the family to come. Then they go through the fee bill process, they go to the exit interview, and then they can join you. And typically it takes about 90 to 120 days from the time you say, I'm ready for my family to come, and then they would come. So that is what's called follow to join. So particularly nurses, maybe you have a larger family, they want to come, get established, start working, start earning, and then they'll bring family after that. So that's what follow to join means. Did I explain that properly?
For the follow to join process, the case for your family remains on hold as far as the finances are concerned, as far as providing documents is concerned. The case will still reach the embassy with you. So at the time that you are ready to move forward with the process for your family, you will contact the embassy where you attended the interview and commence the process for them, which is why it takes about 60 to 90 days.
Unless something new, I didn't know that.
There are delays outside of the scope of Avant.
I learned something new today. Very cool. All right. At what stage of the process can I add a new dependent? So that dependent may be a spouse, and that dependent may be a baby, right? Maybe a new child. So the best time, we really like to try and file everybody together if we can at the beginning. So some people take a pause. They plan to get married after NCLEX. They get married. Some people do a civil wedding, and then they do the big fancy wedding after that, just so we can get people filed. So ideally, we want to file you together, right? If that doesn't happen, when are the other times they can add somebody?
So you can also file add your dependent to the case at the NVC stage, which is the National Visa Center. So at the time that your case is at the National Visa Center and the fee bill is issued, we can contact the NVC to then add a dependent to the case. You will need to provide documents. So legally married spouse, which also means that customary marriages are not recognized. So you will need to have legal documentation of your marriage, or in the case of a child, you will need to have a legal birth certificate to provide to the National Visa Center to add the dependent to the case. If you are not married and if you do not have a baby until you're at the end of the process, then we can also, the last chance to add a dependent to the case would be at the embassy. So say you get married right towards the end of the process when you have your visa interview scheduled and you are able to get married, then you will need to provide a marriage certificate at the time of your interview and add your dependent to the case at the embassy. The same goes for a child.
So if you're currently seeing somebody and it's getting serious, then think about it. So we'd love to file you all together. So that's the very best time. But as Saloni said, if you miss that vote, there are a couple of other times in the process that we can do that. Well, great. If you get your green card issued and you have not included that spouse, you'll have to do it when you come. And that process not only is more expensive, it also takes some time, and you would need an immigration attorney, which again, we can provide you with references for that, but we do not process family-based visas, only the employment-based visa with the family included. All right, this is something that comes up a lot. What if I want to change my employment while I'm in the immigration process? If it's all possible, please don't do that. Not only does it sometimes create delays, but sometimes people move out of a suitable specialty and into a clinical area that we cannot consider. So sometimes nurses will say, I don't want to work in the ICU anymore. I've moved to an outpatient clinic. Not a good idea. We do not have jobs in the outpatient setting. Sometimes people say, I want to become a midwife and I want to start delivering babies. We have very, 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 very few labor and delivery positions, hardly any. And so if you make a move and then we cannot place you, we sometimes have to terminate your place on the program, and we don't want to do that. And so the most important thing is that you maintain full-time work, and that if you are going to make a change, whether that is to a new unit or in fact to a new country and a new job and a new unit, please talk to us before you do it. Often we get, well, I did it a year ago, but I didn't tell anybody. Why didn't you tell us? We need to know these things. And so please, 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 please talk to us before you make any changes in your employment. You think I made enough of a big deal about that?
Yes, you said please enough of
I said please enough times. Okay, please don't do it. Please talk to us before you make a change. Again, we're not trying to control you, and we're not trying to control your life and tell you what you have to do all the time. There are very good reasons why we ask you not to do that. We also, if you have a gap of more than 90 days, that's a problem. When we look at placing you, clients want current, applicable, suitable experience. That's what they're looking for. And so we want to make sure you have the best options, the best choices. And so we do ask, if you're going to change your job, please talk to us before you do it. Okay, please. Just going to say please one more time. Okay, can I travel to the US while my application is pending?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
You can travel to the US as long as you have the visa to travel to the US. So you would need a tourist visa stamped on your passport in order for you to make that entry. If you do not have a US visa, then you will need to apply for one. That depends on the consulate where you're applying, whether or not it's approved. Avant specifically does not have restrictions. All we ask and we request at any stage of the process is you keep us informed. If you do plan to travel, let us know those travel dates so we can time and plan certain steps of your process appropriately.
Okay, good. All right. What happens if my child turns 21 during the process? Can they still be a part of my case and immigrate with me? I'm going to hand over to the boss about this one. You take this.
So this depends on the officer. So there is a rule in place, which is the Child Status Protection Act, short form is CSPA. And what that allows is for certain family members, children specifically, to be eligible when there's where there's a retrogression. So India, for example, is retrogressed and the wait is over 10 years. So at the time that you are current and eligible to immigrate, the officer may find you eligible or your child eligible under the CSPA Act. This depends entirely on the officer interviewing you. We recommend that you still include that child, you still contact the embassy ahead of the interview and request at the interview for the officer to add that child to the case. And so far, whenever we've done that, we have been successful.
Wow.
So we do see those cases get approved, those children get those visas, even though they have aged out. But like I said, it depends on the embassy officer and where you're attending that interview.
Now, is it best that that child is still unmarried?
Yes.
Okay, so even if your child is begging you to get married, if they want to come with you, they need to be unmarried, okay? So that is really an important. Now, you can always, if they don't get included, you can always do a family-based petition once you get here. Again, depending on the age of the child and whether they're married or not, that could take some time. But so good advice. I didn't know that. I'm learning so much today. So when will I have a client interview and a facility assignment? So I manage a lot of the Facebook inquiries, and a lot of our nurses come online and they say, Miss Lesley, why do I not have a job yet? Well, we need to time your job both with the client need and also with your exit interview. So we start looking at your placement about 5 months before you come into the US. We'll get an updated resume from you, you'll have a clinical assessment, and then we will plan your placement. Now, obviously, we want you to try and go somewhere that you'd like to go to, but sometimes that's not always possible. And so we do need, and we do ask that you are flexible. Sometimes some states, for example, Maryland is one of those that has quite specific licensure requirements with respect to IELTS scores. Some states don't require IELTS, and so that's a little easier. We also need to make sure that you have the skills for the client that we're presenting you to. So if, for example, it's a level 1 trauma center and they're looking for a neuro ICU nurse, you need to have a level of skill that meets the need of that particular client. So the goal is that by the time you go to your exit interview, you have your job, you'll have your job confirmation, you'll know where you're going, and we'll have a good idea of when you're entering the country and then when you will begin your assignment with that client. Okay, I think we have time for a couple more questions. So what do I need to do in order to prepare for the embassy interview?
We will tell you. So at the time that your interview is scheduled, your immigration specialist will be in touch with you to advise you on what the requirements are, what documents we need you to take with you, and we send those to you by FedEx or UPS. I think it's UPS now. We mail those to you, and we have to be sure to mail them at the right time because they're only valid for 30 days. So the job offer letter from Avant, which confirms that position for you to go to the embassy, has to be stamped or dated within 30 days of your interview. So typically the team sends out those documents to you about 2 to 3 weeks before. If you're still pending other items like your visa screen or maybe a placement document, then it may be a little closer to the interview, but we monitor those daily. So we're not going to forget about it, and we will send you everything that you need, including your interview documents, and we also host webinars. So the team will set up webinars for you a couple of weeks before your interview is scheduled. We go over questions, we go over frequently asked questions by the officer, and also tell you what you should and should not do at the interview when you attend.
Don't lie. Don't lie. Don't use your cell phone, all of those kinds of things. That day, I remember when I went for my green card interview, it's nerve-wracking, it's exciting. You're so nervous and you're not sure what they're going to ask you and you get all tongue-tied. But most of the officers are very understanding, you know, and we'll prep you so you know exactly what to expect. It's really like going to the bank.
It is really like
going to the bank. You know, you go through a metal detector, you'll go to the window, they'll call you. Obviously, if you're bringing family, all the kids have to go, your spouse has to go. So it can be a bit of a day out and a little challenging maybe to keep little ones entertained while you're waiting. So, but we will prepare you fully, and it will be in most cases a really great experience. So I would like to delay my process. Is this something that can be accommodated by Avant. Absolutely not. You have to come as soon as possible. But no, it can be. There are instances sometimes when things happen, right? You need to take time out. Maybe it's a health issue. Maybe we need you to get more experience. Maybe, oh my gosh, there's so many things.
Maybe you have a contract that you need to finish out, or there are personal circumstances where you cannot come sooner than a certain time. Yes, we do accommodate delays which are reasonable. However, like we've mentioned many times already today, let us know as soon as possible. So when we ask you multiple times during the process, is there anything that would delay you from coming to the US, and you say no, and then we're at the end of the process and you have that visa and now you can't come for 60 days, that becomes a little bit of a problem.
Challenging. It is. Everything has time constraints, right? Once your visa is issued, there's a time constraint to come into the country. Otherwise, that green card becomes null and void. Now, there is about a 4 to 6 month time frame, but it depends on your medicals. It depends on different things. Also, by the end, we have a client expecting you to come. Clients have budgets, and they have timelines, and they have expectations. And so, again, the biggest thing, really the biggest thing in all of this is communication. And so if you're getting married, tell us. If you're having a baby, tell us. If you're sick, tell us. If you need to delay, tell us. If you're moving to another country, tell us. If there is any, we are so nosy, right? If there is anything major that is going to affect your ability to relocate to the US, please tell us. And again, remember, you decided to do this. We don't come to your house and bang on your door and make you sign a contract, but we also know life changes. So the more you communicate, the more you follow the direction we give you, the smoother this process is, and the less gray hair Saloni will have dealing with many cases.
I have really heard it all. So there is nothing that you can share that me or my team haven't heard. Yeah. So if you do expect a change, if you are expecting a delay, if there's anything which you think you should mention, then mention it. And we've probably heard it before, so we're not surprised. And I think
it's confidential. Yeah, I've heard a lot. I haven't heard as much as you have. She gets all the exciting stories. But you know what? It is confidential. And again, life changes. Life is life. And I think the last year, if anything, has taught us that life is full of change. But I think the last year has also taught us to seize the day. And if you have a desire to be here in the US, the time is now. And so we would certainly love for you to join our program today. So look us up on Facebook. Stay tuned for more information coming your way. Take care, guys, and we'll be back another time to share some more information with you.